Are you ready?
Okay, I am recording, so you are good to go.
Okay. All right. So just let me know if you can't see my screen here.
Yep, I can.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Carlita, for having me on tonight. My name is Dr. Sarah Pace, and I'm a chiropractor in upstate New York, and I specialize with pregnancy and pediatrics. So as you can see tonight, I'm going to focus a little bit more on my kiddos here because this is truly my passion, is to kind of fix them, because we're living in a society right now where kids are getting sicker and sicker, and I believe we can turn that around. So I'm going to hopefully give you guys some good information tonight to help you take control of your health and your family's health. So I don't know if people have heard of functional medicine, but it's kind of the new era of, I don't like to use the word medicine because it's not about giving medicine. These type of doctors are actually looking at assessing and treating and preventing disease, which I highlighted preventing because there's not a lot of prevention going out there in our country. We wait for a symptom to happen and then we try to do something about it, and a lot of times it's treating it with some type of medication. And actually these functional medicine doctors do the opposite. They're looking at your overall health and looking at how the body works together as a whole, and then using supplements and diet changes to fix whatever's going on or that's imbalance with someone. So they look at environmental and lifestyle factors that are going to influence things. So specifically what type of diet you're eating. So that's kind of what we do in our office as well. But it allows patients to take an active role in their care. And I think that's huge, to empower patients and clients to learn more about their health and how their bodies works and how it heals. And that's what my big thing is in my office, is educating my patients. So that's really what we're doing. So just to give you guys an idea, a lot of times when you go to like your primary or GP, they're going to run traditional labs like CBC and metabolic panels and things like that. So these are different types of labs. So some of these you've probably never even heard of. Amino acid profiles, methylation. So methylation is big. If you go on to mthfr.net, there's a guy, Dr. Ben Lynch, who is really big with this methylation, and they're saying about 50% of our population actually has this MTHFR gene, and it's affecting your detox pathways, and it's affecting your neurotransmitter production. So it can wreak havoc on someone's health. So there's different ways to test for that. There's a 23andMe profile. That's actually a saliva test, so it's great, so we can use that on our kids. They do a full thyroid panel, because a lot of times people have all these symptoms of hypothyroidism, and they go to their doctor and they get tested, and their TSH levels are normal, their T3 levels are normal, but they have every symptom of a thyroid going on. So these functional labs are going to test different things, which will produce different information and allow these doctors to make changes with their overall health using supplements and diet changes. Adrenals, a lot of us have major adrenal stress going on right now. Like Heidi said last week, we live in fight or flight. So our adrenals are constantly releasing cortisol because we live in a stressful society and we're go, 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 always fast paced. So we need to give our adrenals a break. And there's a lot of different ways we can do that with meditation. There's different supplements and yoga, all those things will help. And then an organic acid test is another one that we like to use, but it just tests different things in the body that your traditional doctor won't be testing for. And then IgG, which is food sensitivity. So in our 30 Days to Healthy Living, we're telling people to cut out gluten, dairy, and soy. So people might not have a specific allergy, like celiacs, but most people actually are just sensitive to it, and it's a delayed sensitivity. And a lot of doctors won't test for this. So this is something that you can get tested for. It tests a bunch of different foods. Definitely gluten, dairy are always on every panel because those are the most sensitive for most people. But I'll give you guys some signs and symptoms that you're possibly got some gluten or dairy issues in a few more slides here. So basically, these functional medicine doctors are treating us as a whole. So rather than treating you apart and saying, go to your endocrinologist for a thyroid issue, but go to your gastroenterologist for a GI issue, they're going to treat you as a whole, which is what we need to be treated as, because that's how our body works. It's trying to be in homeostasis and in balance. So we're going to combine all these systems and get them working together. And Heidi touched on last week our gut, which is huge. We do a ton of gut work in our office. We always say your gut's your second brain. With these kids coming in with neurosensory issues like ADHD, autism spectrum, we look to the gut with their diet, if they need some supplements, different things like that. 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. So a lot of these kids are sick. So when you clean up your gut, you're cleaning up that immune system. And it's also where most of your neurotransmitters are made. So serotonin, dopamine, these kids are having anxiety and OCD and all these other types of mood disorders. And when we clean up the gut, we can help with a lot of these different things. So just be aware of that. So these are just a list of some of the neurotransmitters that are produced in the gut. Serotonin, which is going to help us with our sleep. How many of us have sleep issues? A sign that you may have low serotonin is you have difficulty falling asleep. But if you're someone that can fall asleep pretty easily, but then you wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, that's a sign you have blood sugar imbalance. So we got to work on stabilizing that blood sugar. And guess what? The 30 Days to Healthy Living is going to help us stabilize that blood sugar. So that's another reason why I love this program. Dopamine levels, those are all produced in the GI. And again, don't forget those immune system components. Those are huge for these kids. So what we as chiropractors do, we work with your nervous system. This is just showing the vagus nerve, which is one of your cranial nerves. But this is what's really controlling, and that's connecting your gut and your brain together. And I love it because as chiropractors, we have an effect on this nerve. So when we do an upper cervical adjustment, which is your neck, we can turn off that inflammatory process, which the vagus nerve has control over. So it's pretty cool. And that's why we do see so many kids in our office, is having that autonomic effect on your nervous system. What I'm going to talk about here quick is just how that leaky gut, some of you may have heard this term recently in the past few years, it's been getting more popular, but this is just a picture to show you, we're supposed to have tight gap junctions within our microvilli of our intestinal tract, but you can see in this picture here how we're getting a space in between them. So that's that leaky gut. And what's going to happen is it's going to allow the components within our digestive tract, specifically here it's showing gliomorphin and casomorphin, which are two components that are in gluten and in dairy. So those components can actually leak out into your bloodstream and go to your brain and give you a high. So these literally have morphine opioid effects for not only adults, but also these kids. So just be aware of that. Besides maybe just causing GI sensitivity, some of these components, they can also have an effect on our brain. So current state of affairs, and it looks pretty dim as far as these statistics, but the good news is that we can change all of this. So the National Research Council has deemed about 7% of all couples now sterile. So you see it more and more common today. People are having a harder time getting pregnant. So we work on preconception care with families in our office, both mom and dad. 30% of pregnancies are complicated by maternal health issues. So it's really important to get mom healthy before pregnancy. I always recommend doing the 30 Days to Healthy Living prior to that, detoxing the body, resetting it, making it a good environment for the baby to grow. 1 out of every 6 kids are now diagnosed with a neurodevelopmental disorder, whether it's autism, ADHD, sensory processing. These numbers are getting worse and worse. And now 54% of our kids are suffering from 1 or more chronic illnesses, whether it's asthma, allergies, autoimmune disease. And the statistic for autism is now 1 in 68, and that's a 2014 study. So what I'm saying is, these aren't genes that are having this influence, luckily. It's our epigenetics, which is our environment and our lifestyles that are turning on and off these genes. So the good news is we have control to change these numbers. And that's truly my passion. Is I'm so sick of seeing all these sick kids coming into my office, that my goal is to just educate people and empower them with knowledge that it doesn't have to be this way and they can make these changes. So just Danielle kind of had some suggestions as far as what to put in for this PowerPoint. But basically some contributing factors for kids that might end up with some neurodevelopmental disorders, like I said, whether it's ADHD, sensory processing, autism spectrum. Genetics can be an influence, of course. We're always going to have that. The bigger influence today is that epigenetics, which I said is our environment and our lifestyle influencing these genes. Birth trauma, so whether we have forceps or vacuum being used, C-section is technically considered a birth trauma because it's not the normal birth process. There absolutely is a time and a place for a C-section, but I believe it's being very overutilized in our country. So I educate my moms and dads on the importance of a vaginal birth if they can do it, because it's giving that baby the good gut flora that they need. Retain primitive reflexes, which I'm not going to get too much into, but these are reflexes that as a baby you're supposed to have, but you're supposed to get rid of, but some of these kids are still hanging on to them. And I bolded some of these next ones because we as consultants and as clients of Arbonne are changing these right here. So maternal stressors. So by getting healthy and doing a 30 days to healthy living program, we're allowing ourselves to pass on to future generations better qualities of health. Getting rid of the toxic insult in our environment. So that's why I love Arbonne, the company, because not only are they doing this with their food, they're also talking about it with their skincare, their makeup, everything that every product that they have, is safe, pure, safe, and beneficial. And that's what I do educate my patients on, is that you have to look at everything that you're using and everything whether it's your cleaning agents, and trying to minimize that toxic load. And by using Arbonne, you're minimizing that toxic load. So it's awesome. Poor immune system. So when you clean up that gut, you're going to clean up your immune system as well. And that chronic inflammation. So what we talk about doing that 30 days, you're cutting out so much inflammation in the body by getting rid of those inflammatory foods. You're going to help with so many different conditions and diseases. So just to look at some of the environmental factors, within our own bodies, we have viruses and bacteria, parasites, and then now the big thing is yeast. So a lot of us have yeast in our body, but our normal detoxifying systems can get rid of it, like our liver and our kidney. But what's happening is, especially with these kids and a lot of adults today, is we have yeast overgrowth or Candida overgrowth. And I'll give you some signs and symptoms of that. And yeast feeds off of sugar. So a lot of people with high carb diets and eating a lot of sugar are going to have yeast issues. So by doing that 30 days, you're going to be cutting out that yeast as well. We also look at what's called stealth infections. This is getting big in our country. A lot more people are being diagnosed with Lyme's disease, Epstein-Barr virus, streptococcus is laying dormant in our bodies and coming out. So we got to get rid of these infections. We do different biofilm protocols. Getting everyone on a probiotic is one of the big things we do. As far as, like I said, the Digestion Plus is huge to help get rid of these stealth infections. So look at your heavy metals, pesticides, your cleaning agents, food additives. So that's why we eliminate in the 30 days your food colorings, your MSG, your aspartame, which is phenolphthalein. Those are all neurotoxins, and they're going to accumulate in the tissues and in your brain. Fetal alcohol drugs, especially during pregnancy, we want to obviously minimize that. And then, like I said, the Arbonne difference is their ingredient policy. And I firmly believe that this is the company of the future, that people are starting to realize the importance of all these ingredients, not only in their food, but in their makeup and their skincare and their hair care and their sun care and their baby lines. Arbonne is way ahead of the system. And to me, I think it's just it's a perfect fit for what's going on with our country, and more people need to start to embrace it. So here's some preconception ideas. I know there are some Arbonne consultants and some clients that are pregnant now, but see, these are good quality things that you can still be doing even if you are pregnant. But preconception for both mom and dad, making sure you prepare that body for conception. So doing that 30-day cleanse is huge. I've noticed such a difference with my patients that I've had with pregnancy, and this is their second time around with a baby, and now they did this 30 days in between the two children, and the pregnancy issues are almost nothing this time around for one of my patients. She used to have a lot of nausea and vomiting, and she doesn't have any of that anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with cleaning out her system and resetting that body with the 30 days. We also talk to our patients about greening their home. So if any of you have ever heard of Norwex, it's a cleaning company that only uses water in their towels. So there's no chemicals involved, and they have laundry detergents and dishwashing detergents. It's a great company. We recommend them all the time. Making sure you're getting enough exercise, limiting sugar, caffeine, alcohol, watching your computer computer and cell phone use. So, because you want to minimize those EMFs and those brain, because they're going to have an effect on brain waves and things like that. I always recommend trying to use a midwife or doula for pregnancy. Midwives are great. They're always going to look to be conservative as possible, and try to allow you to have a natural birth and do everything as naturally as possible for you. Getting rid of mercury fillings, because those can be harmful for baby and mom. And then decrease medication use if possible during preconception care. And then I put the Digestion Plus in there because absolutely we should all be doing probiotic. And I love the Digestion Plus because it's got prebiotic, probiotic, and enzymes all in one. So I do recommend all my moms going to get pregnant that are pregnant doing the Digestion Plus. Also doing vitamin D3. We live up in upstate New York, so we don't see the sun this time of year, so they need to do some extra D. Maybe if you live down south, you might not need to do as much, but we definitely need to here. And then these are just some kind of red flags for babies as they're developing, that there might be some kind of immune system issue or nervous system issue going on. And I always say that the earlier we can catch these things, the easier it is that's going to be able to help these children live a healthier lifestyle for the long term. So delaying in their sucking for more than 48 hours, excessive drooling, poor head control, those are all signs that there's some mitochondrial issues going on. Difficulty latching, only wanting to feed on one side, so they're not wanting to turn their neck the full way. That could indicate a subluxation in their neck. So we always like to check them as babies. People always say, my youngest baby that I've adjusted is coming home from the hospital. So a lot of my pregnant moms bring their babies in to get checked right after birth. And adjusting a baby is very different than adjusting adult. We use our fingers. We're not putting them on a table and cracking their necks or anything like that. It's a very gentle adjustment. And anytime there's reflux, colic, eczema, chronic ear infections, other types of digestive disorders, constipation is a big one that we deal with in our office. They don't like to go on tummy time. Those are all signs that that nervous system or their immune system is out of whack. So we as chiropractors approach that with the adjustments, but then I also do a lot of nutritional work with them. Another sign is not crawling on all fours. So this is big, that I see a lot of kids that are army crawling, or they're doing the butt scooch, or they skip crawling altogether. And this can be a problem later on in life for their neural development, as far as learning in school, motor output, different things like that. So we always want to make sure that baby's crawling on all fours for at least 6 months. This is a very big part of their development. That's getting all their sensory systems working together. It's getting their upper and lower extremity working together, bilateral coordination. All these things that are needed for proper brain development are happening during that crawling phase. So we really need to make sure that that's happening. So, and again, walking too early. So really the average age for children to be walking is around 12 months. So if I see a baby that started walking at 9 months, I'm definitely going to look for signs of some sensory stuff going on, or possibly learning delays because they didn't get that crawling on all fours. And then possible reactions to vaccine could be a sign of immune system dysregulation going on. So healing the gut. So what we do is the 4 R's. This is by Jeffrey Bland. So we remove, we replace, re-inoculate, and repair. So this is really what the 30 days is doing in a nutshell. So we want to cut out all those sugars and dyes, want to get rid of the toxins in our environment and our cleaning agents. We go gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. Some people, if they feel like they do well with those types of diets, but then they feel like there's still some other things going on, sometimes we recommend a specific carb diet, which they start to get rid of the sugar, the potatoes, and the other starches as well. So it's a little bit more strict than going gluten-free, dairy-free. We also want to make sure we're getting rid of that yeast, if there's excess bacteria going on, any viruses. We want to make sure we remove all that. So that's going to happen throughout that 30 days. And just to let you guys know, I didn't mention this, but if you look at that, those letters there, gluten, or those words there, glutamorphin and casomorphin. So literally on the end of that, those are 2 components that are found in the gluten and the dairy. So that's morphine. So these literally are opioid peptides that are found in gluten and dairy. And that is why there's some kids, and some adults for that matter, that only want to drink milk, or they only want to have pizza or mac and cheese or chicken nuggets, is because this literally could be giving them a high. So be aware of that side effect as far as gluten and dairy. It can be literally giving people highs. So be aware of that. And there could be a withdrawal going on with that. So signs and symptoms of a gluten sensitivity. So if you don't have the ability to do that food sensitivity testing, that IgG test, there's different things that you can look at on the body. So keratosis pilaris is that goosebump rash on the back of your arm. So they kind of call it chicken skin. So if you feel the back of your arms, it might be a little bumpy. This goes for kids and adults. That could be a sign that there's a gluten sensitivity going on. Fatigue or brain fog are big. So especially with gluten, besides just having digestive effects, there is a big neurological component with gluten. So a lot of my patients with migraines, I immediately tell them to get off gluten because that's a big contributing factor is the gluten sensitivity. Anyone with any type of thyroid issue should not be consuming gluten. Many women with hormonal issues like PMS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility, I immediately take them off gluten. So these are all different conditions that you might be hearing about or people that have. Going off gluten can be life-changing for these people. People with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, different inflammatory joints, all can benefit from gluten withdrawal. So these are just some hidden sources of gluten that some people might not be aware of. So it's definitely found in wheat, barley, and rye, sometimes oats because of where it's processed. But a lot of people don't realize it's in condiments, salad dressing, syrup. It's in skincare and makeup. So, with Arbonne's, it's not in there. But a lot of skincare companies out there have gluten in it. And you don't even think about that because it's not a food. It's in Play-Doh. So when your kids are playing with that, it's in some medications, specifically Synthroid and Cytomel, which are both thyroid medications. So if you know you have an issue with gluten and you're on one of those medications, talk to your doctor or see if there's some type of alternative. That can be messing up our health as well. Definitely a lot of supplements. I really encourage patients not to go to Walgreens and Walmart and BJ's and places like that for their supplements. I recommend that they either get the supplements that we have in Arbonne or go to a natural health food store to get supplements, because a lot of these over-the-counters like One-A-Days and Centrums, they do have gluten in them, they do have dyes, they do have sugars, and different things like that. So just to be aware of that when you're looking into supplements. And here's just another source of that you can look at. So a lot of people know the wheat, barley, and rye, but if you see a label that says artificial flavorings, that can signify that there might be gluten in something. Could be in hot dogs. It could be in soy sauce, and then in the dairy, you're gonna look at your yogurts. Cool Whip has it, sherbet. So take a look at all these things. Probiotics are big. If you aren't using the Digestion Plus and you're getting your probiotics somewhere else, make sure it doesn't have dairy in it, because a lot of them do. So here are some signs and symptoms of a dairy sensitivity. So casein is the protein in dairy, and a lot of people with eczema, we look at as far as having a dairy issue, spontaneous vomiting, headache, sinus condition, any type of congestion with your sinuses or ear infections, things like that, coughing, asthma, bronchitis, respiratory, that's usually a dairy issue. So that inflammation is just coming out in your lungs, it's coming out in your skin. That's inflammation that your body's producing because it's sensitive to this stuff. And then it's also leading to that leaky gut and causing that opioid effect. So much to what we've been taught growing up, that milk actually doesn't do a body good. And a lot of us Arbonne consultants realize this, but it's new for a lot of people, especially those that are just starting the 30 days. We do have you cut out milk because it really is very inflammatory for most of us. And I highlight it increases your risk of fracture because a lot of us are taught that milk builds strong bones, and the people that came up with that is actually the dairy industry. And the research now coming out is supporting the opposite. It's showing that people who drink more milk actually have greater risk of osteoporotic hip fractures, which is kind of scary. And I believe it's because the way they homogenize and pasteurize our milk so that it's healthy for us to, or it's safe for us to drink, we aren't even absorbing any of the calcium from it. It also contains a lot of sugar. So kids with a lot of cavities, I always say, how much milk are they drinking? Like I just said, it's mucus producing. It contains antibiotics and hormones that are getting passed on to us and our children. So if it's not an organic source. Ear infections. So I have a lot of babies coming in with ear infections and they're put on rounds of antibiotics. And the first thing I say to mom if she's breastfeeding, how much dairy are you consuming? and I immediately tell mom to get off dairy. And if it's baby that's now eating regular food and drinking stuff, I ask them how much milk are they giving their child, and we give them alternatives like almond milk, rice milk, coconut milk. Any of those are great options. Any sign of reflux, I look at dairy. So it's just inflammatory for most of us. I laugh because Danielle makes fun of me because I always say that we're the only mammal that drinks another mammal's milk. And it's true. We were never designed to drink cow's milk. And like I said, the dairy industry came up with this, and it's just wreaking havoc on so many people's health, our children's health. So I just completely recommend that most people cut it out of their diet altogether. So I also let my patients know and clients when they start the 30 days to healthy living that these are some signs of gluten or casein withdrawal. So be aware that if you're a heavy carb and gluten eater and dairy eater, that you might have some of these withdrawals. Can remember that opioid effect that it has. So insomnia, anger or anxiety, night sweats or day sweats, hyperactive behavior, constipation and or diarrhea, because your digestive system is trying to reset and regroup from getting all that inflammation out of there. Kids might be clingy or whiny, upset stomach, cognitive dysfunction, because it's gonna, like I said, that gluten can have a neurological effect. So I always forewarn my patients, especially when we're dealing with the kids and getting them off this, is that this might actually increase their behaviors versus get rid of them initially, usually for about a week, and then we start to get over that hump. So food allergy versus sensitivity. So I get asked this question a lot. Food allergies. So that's an IgE response. So that's when you're going to go to an allergist and they're going to say, okay, we're going to test you for dust and, celiacs and things like that. Most people are sensitive to foods. So that is going to be an IgG test. So this, I wrote down a website called bettercontrolofhealth.com. We use this company because in New York, we're pretty restricted with what type of IgG testing we can do. This is about the only one we can do nowadays. It is a finger prick test. It tests 96 different foods. Gluten and dairy are on there, a bunch of fruits, a bunch of vegetables are on there. So you can actually determine if you are sensitive to certain foods. And it's the best way, rather than if people don't want to try that elimination diet. That is an option to do this. And I always forewarn, dairy and wheat are the most common sensitivities, but dairy is pretty easy to get out of your system and detox. It usually takes about 3 to 4 days to get out of there. But gluten and dairy can take 4 to 6 months or even 8 months. So I always say, hang on and keep going with it, because even if you may not see symptom improvement after the first 30 days that we do the 30 days to healthy living, keep going. It just might mean that it's not all out of your system yet. So physical changes that occur with food allergies or sensitivities. So this is specifically with kids, but it can happen with adults as well. They get this spacey, demonic look in their eyes, and then they become impossible to deal with or uncontrolled. So some of you might have kids that like, maybe they have some sensitivities going on. Clucking sound or clearing your throat a lot. That's very common with a dairy or milk sensitivity. Whining or saying the same phrase over and over. Red hot ears or cheeks. So that's a big one, a big red flag. So if you see your kids get red ears or cheeks, that's a food sensitivity. And they might not have it immediately after they eat that food. It might happen the next day or 24 to 48 hours. So start taking diet diaries and starting to look at these things. Allergic shiner. So I have a picture of this little boy. Can you see those dark circles under his eyes? That is usually a sign of a food sensitivity that kid has. That is not supposed to be on a kid. I see it all the time with these kids. They got those dark circles, and it's usually signifies some type of food sensitivity that's going on within their body. Another big one I noticed is facial twitches or tics. So constantly like squinting their eyes or snorting, restless leg, those are all could be signs of a sensitivity to a food. So start keeping a diet diary for you and your kids, and start getting to the root of maybe what foods are sensitive for them, or do that IgG panel. So we want to replace. So we're going to do that Digestion Plus, which has got our digestive enzymes, and it's got our pre and probiotics. And then I do some other supplements as well. A lot of times omega-3s, which are in fish. A lot of people don't eat enough fish, so I do recommend supplementing with that. I usually recommend about 12 to 1500 of EPA and DHA, which is the omegas, omega-3s that are in the essential fatty acids. Some other minerals that I do recommend, magnesium is, a lot of kids and adults are deficient. A lot of females in particular are deficient in magnesium. So I do say try to get 200 to 400. Some of them you're going to see in the multivitamins, Arbonne's multivitamins. So you might need to do a little bit extra, but take a look at that and see what you're also getting in your diet. Sometimes we need to do a little extra calcium, some B vitamins, zinc. So you can look on your fingernails and see if you have white lines on your fingernails. That's usually a sign of a zinc deficiency. So you can do a little bit extra of that as well, or get it in your food. And then the main one that I recommend as far as the last group here is the D. Like I said, we live in upstate New York, so we don't see the sun in the winter. So I do recommend we get an extra 5,000 IUs a day. So we're going to re-inoculate, which is one of those R's, and that's your prebiotic and probiotic. Your Digestion Plus has it. So it's perfect to re-inoculate the gut. What probiotics do? They're going to help heal that leaky gut. So they're literally going to close down those gap junctions and remove the ability for those components to leak out and go into the bloodstream and go to the brain. So you're going to aid in your overall digestive health. It's going to help with constipation, diarrhea, helps with colic, eczema, asthma, and it's going to boost that immune system. Because again, remember that you're healing the gut, you're healing the immune system as well. So repair. So here's everything we tell people to do in the 30 days to healthy living and beyond. So get some more brown rice, quinoa, flaxseed, fruits and veggies, nuts, what God's food are. You do continue to do your prebiotic and probiotic. I always follow to do organic as much as possible. I'll give you guys the Clean 15, the Dirty Dozen on the next slide. But try to do your meats and your dairies organic if you can, just to get rid of those hormones and pesticides that are getting into the meats. We want to try to avoid those at all costs. Avoid genetically modified organisms, so GMO foods, and I'm so excited that we are getting that certification with Arbonne. It's fantastic. But there's apps for that too. It's called Shop No GMO. If you're looking for cereals or different pastas or breads that are non-genetically modified, there's different apps for that, so you can look at what companies are non-GMO. Continue with good supplements, vitamins and minerals. So drinking water, half your body weight in ounces per day is how much water we should be drinking. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should be doing about 75 ounces a day. And a lot of people aren't even close to that, so we work up. But this is what we're doing in the 30-day. Here's your Dirty Dozen Clean 15 list. So this isn't actually an app. You can download it right to your phone. So all the Dirty Dozen, you want to buy organic. The Clean 15, you can buy non-organic because they don't have as much pesticides on them. So this is for my patients that are looking to try to, work on a budget here and try to minimize and keep their costs as low as they can. Follow that Clean 15 Dirty Dozen. So just be aware that there are other symptoms that can arise from leaky gut and gut issues besides the bottom, which is gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea. You can have sensory issues, you can have brain fog, you can have anxiety, depression. So a lot of these conditions clear up by just cleaning up the gut. Acne, eczema. I'll tell you, my acne got so much better after doing the 30 days to healthy living because my big nemesis is gluten. And I knew it from the start, and it took me the 30 days to finally cut gluten out of my life forever. So signs of yeast overgrowth, constant UTIs, a white coating on your tongue, kids that flap their hands all the time, that's a sign of yeast overgrowth. Wet hair smells like wet dog, so discolored nails or toenails, cracking or peeling hands and feet, silly drunken laughter. These are all signs. Craving desserts or sugary foods, that they might be a possibility of yeast overgrowth, and they could definitely benefit from a detox. Nutrition definitely affects behavior, and if people don't believe that today, I don't know what rock they're living under. But this is just to show you a study from the Lancet in 2007 that food dyes have an effect on children's behavior, and these are just a list of some of them. And I put the Flintstones vitamins on there because I got a lot of kids on Flintstones vitamins. They're loaded with dyes and sugars. I immediately tell them to get off that. There's no nutritional value in them. And here's a warning label on the UK for mac and cheese. It literally says, this product may have adverse effect on activity and attention in children. Don't you wish they labeled that on our stuff in our country? Maybe one day. But literally Kraft Macaroni and Cheese has that on their warning label in the UK. But hopefully the tides are turning and it's going to start happening here. This is kind of a scary slide, but just to give you an idea, sugar and how much sugar kids are consuming. The average female is supposed to get about 6 teaspoons a day. The male is supposed to get about 9. And then so for 4 grams, it's 1 teaspoon. You're going to see it listed as teaspoons on your food labels. So start reading them. The average kid consumes 32 teaspoons a day of sugar. So just be aware of that and what your kids are drinking and eating. This isn't a slide showing you how similar sugar has an effect on the brain as cocaine. And then this can also have an effect on learning. So you can see this kid's handwriting when he's in hypoglycemia because his blood sugars dropped so low. And then he ate a snack on number 4. And then look how his writing improved again after he got out of hypoglycemia. So some of our kids that are being labeled with ADHD, look at some of these symptoms. It could just be that they're in hypoglycemia. So teach your kids to get a good protein snack, whether they have nuts or hummus or peanut butter, any type of good protein. A good protein bar is going to save them from going into this hypoglycemia, but it's going to affect their mood, their inability to focus. But this is happening all too often in school today. So be aware of these symptoms. But why Arbonne's 30 Days to Healthy Living? Their strict ingredient policy, you know you're not going to get any of the harmful ingredients in any of their products. It's going to balance the blood sugar. It's going to alkalinize the body, decrease that inflammation, unclog the liver, which Heidi and Carlita talked about so much on the other weeks of the healthy living, detoxifying at the cellular level. And like Carlita mentioned last week, and I think this is the biggest thing that I've loved with the 30 days, implementing it in my office with my patients, is that this has been life-changing and lifestyle-changing for so many patients. This isn't a diet. This isn't a fad. They don't go back to doing what they were doing prior. They've literally make lifestyle choices for them and their family. And I always tell patients that, yeah, it might be mom or dad that's doing the 30 Days to Healthy Living, but you're going to get your whole family healthier doing this program. They're going to start eating those clean meals where they're cutting out that gluten and dairy. You can start implementing these changes with them early on. And the quicker you do it with these kids, the better off they're going to be later on in life, and the healthier they're going to be. So these are just some apps quick that you guys can download. Some of them are free, some of them there is a little bit of a fee. The gluten-free scanner, you can scan barcodes and it'll tell you if there's gluten in them, because not everything's always labeled gluten. It could be some disguised in other labels. Additives is a great one because you could see with an ingredient, you might not recognize it, and it'll tell you why it's in a product. Shop No GMO is going to give you all the companies that are non-genetically modified. That Dirty Dozen list. And then Meal Lime's a good meal plan program that can give you some healthy meals. And then some books that I have in my office: Wheat Belly, Grain Brain, the Healthy Gluten-Free Life Cookbook. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, egg-free. There's a ton of recipes. They're kid-friendly. They're great. GFCF.com, taconow.org is a good way to implement gluten and dairy-free. Mercola has some good information. And just to end, this is my favorite quote, and Thomas Edison said this many, many years ago: "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human phrase, in the diet, and the cause and prevention of disease." And I think this is where we're headed in our country, and I think Arbonne is the company that fits right in line with this type of approach. And I do think we can turn this tide, especially with our kids, by getting them eating healthier and implementing these lifestyle change early on, and just giving our clients and fellow consultants knowledge with nutrition and their overall health and how their body works and how it heals. I think all of us can be healthier. So that's it. Any questions? I don't know if I can see them. Sorry, I went a little bit over.
Hey, Sarah, this is Carlita. And
Hi.
Hi, honey. I just want to tell you thank you for giving us all of that information. I mean, I'm just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And it's I can't see where I'm on my phone, and but I can't. It helps people. It's heavy information. It's deep information. It's not your basic healthy living. But you guys, we're beyond that. And you don't have to know all of this to teach it yourself. But what you need to know is that if you hear somebody saying that there's something that they're dealing with that Sarah talked about tonight, that you can say, you know, hey, I don't know if this would be a fit for you or not, but I would love for you to listen to a training that one of our consultants, that's a chiropractor, did about food and our health. and share this with them. And that's what I think people get scared of with healthy living, but yet what you shared is so true. I mean, I was sitting here just going, amen, amen, amen. I have to tell you, like, whenever I go to my practitioner conferences for CMEs and stuff, I've raised my hand, you guys, and asked doctors talking about ADHD and stuff, if they think that diet affects this at all. And they go, oh, no. And I don't argue with them, because there would be no arguing.
It's not worth it.
Just sort of smile and go, okay, thank you. What I want is for you to be empowered, because that's what Sarah just did for all of us tonight, is she empowered us to know what to look for and what questions we can ask and who we can go ask it of, and get some genuine, thought out responses that truly are caring about you, and not just doing what I can get you in and out of here with in a few minutes. So, and I come from the pediatric medical world, I come from that, and I know, the limitations that we had on us whenever I was there. But what I want you to know is what you can know about it and what you can do about it, which is what we are all about in Arvon, is empowering you. So Sarah, thank you, honey. That was amazing.
Thank you.
So grateful for you sharing your knowledge and your information with all of us.
Thank you for allowing me to share. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, babe. Thank you.